while since we had the last episode, but we are here once again on That Scuffed Up, episode 40. Finally, the 40th episode mark has been reached, and we're out of delays, even though we still got some rain to come on the way, but we're here to deliver another weekly episode of That Scuffed Up and talk about OC Wiffle Ball to you guys, our audience members. Today, Justin Lee and Stephen Hayden. Stephen Hayden, how are we doing today?
We've made it to 40. Who would have thought? We're here. We've kept it going. We sit inside all day and we do nothing but nah. That is not the case. We do have lives outside of this, but yeah, we're here at episode 40. And speaking of go outside, I've literally been home. I just barely got home a little bit ago. I was traveling in Arizona for baseball, so. Just got home, unpacked my computer, set up my microphone, and got to recording. So here we are.
Here we are, indeed, and yeah, we have to knock these out, as much as possible. Even though it's tough to get some content these days. Obviously, we got a lot of rain that we could talk about the rain all the time. We've had that for we've had 2 weeks where it's been a race, so we've had the season kind of pushed a little bit in different ways and whatnot. This week in particular is going to be interesting because we got the Sand Series right around the corner, so we're going to give you guys a little bit of a preview of that. But before things get to that as well, we also have to talk about what happened in Week 3 as well, especially with the terms of the standings. Currently, the Trash Pandas sit at the very top as we speak. Beach City Bombers right at second, LA Wolves of OC at third. Right behind, not too far away, is OC Wolves of LA. Avocabros in fifth, Whoosh in sixth, seventh is OC Juicers, and then in the final but not least spot, the Pitchers Gone Wild in the Orange League. And then the Purple League, you got the Pancake Batters, Beach City Babes right behind them, and then third place, the Sheeps. Going to talk a lot about those interesting games that we had to recap together and just kind of go on from there. Steven, any thoughts about just, we've had these delays, last year in the springtime as well, kind of had to work our way around through things, but, we still get the right amount of number of games anyways, nothing too crazy shifts around, just got to keep pushing forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, things happen. We know the Great Park in Irvine is notorious for closing things down early, but they've had good reason to close it down. Hopefully, they won't close it down for this Tuesday, as there's supposed to be some rain coming up here within the next day or two, depending on when this podcast goes out, as we're recording this on a Sunday. But yeah, every team is going to be playing the same, still playing the same amount of games that they were promised at the beginning of the season. There was an email sent out on Sunday at like late morning, early afternoon time, detailing some of that. So just be prepared. And there'll be some times where your team potentially has to play 3 games. So just be ready for that, and we'll see what happens going out through the rest of the year. It's just something we got to work with, something we got to adjust to, and some schedule stuff has changed that we'll talk more about later on once we get through all these games from the 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago at this point. Obviously, last week got rained out once again. But 3 games, it's been done before in this league. You and I both know when that's happened in our history, even in the playoffs. Last year, spring 2023, we've had to play four games in a row, which is insane. It's a lot, but it's fun. It's fun. I think it's fun to have more games than usual because you get your energy up. I know it's a little bit more tiring, but it's definitely better than just playing one game after an hour and then having to go home and then you're bored the rest of the time or whatever you decide to do with spend your time on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, we've been home with this, or we've had other stuff that we've been able to do more because of the rainouts and stuff. But hopefully, we're about done with the rainouts, so we can kind of get this going. We've had some issues with this in some of the previous springs. It just seems to be kind of around that time of the year things just get bad. So we'll see what happens as we continue on.
Yeah, no. Here's to hoping that. Well, I don't think Tuesday's going to get rain out this week, but hoping to the rest of the season that nothing crazy happens with the rain again. But like the groundhog said, it will be an early spring, so hopefully that rain is definitely going to be pushed aside. But I digress. Let's get into the Week 3 stuff that we got to talk about. Starting off with the first game of the day, the Avocados versus Pitchers Gone Wild. Pitchers Gone Wild not having a great start to the season, but again, they are a new team in the league, so they're just figuring out ways to adjust. But in this game, very close between the two teams, especially with the Avocado squad, who I believe had a substitute player in for this week, and they were missing a few of their guys as well. But the final score 13-10 nonetheless, and the Avocados get a pretty good key win that they need on their docket.
Yeah, pitch has gone wild. Do make it a close game here, which is interesting to see. We'll talk more about a close game with the pitch has gone wild later on as well. But I know the Avocado is getting the wins where they need to. As was mentioned earlier, they're currently sitting at fifth seed, so they'd be the top seed going into the D2 playoffs if the season were to end today. However, they do still have a continuation game to finish up, so that'll affect their standings and their run differentials and their runs for, runs against as well. There was a lot of runs scored in that game. Let me tell you that. We talked about it in week one. We'll finish that off later on, but yeah. Pitch has gone wild has seen some good improvement as well, especially for this week. Being able to get 10 runs against a team like that, but the Avocados were able to come out on top at the end of the day. They're still having some pretty nice hitting numbers. Nick Foutress has fallen off a little bit in terms of the hitting numbers, but still has 6 home runs on the year, 11 hits for him as well, 10 hits for Lucas Sardo on the year, and then the pitching is seeming to be getting a little better. It seems like Nick Foutress has pitched a little bit as well. And so things are looking better and better. It seems like the Avocados are getting things into gear and picking it up as the season goes along, which is sometimes just the thing you want to see and you want to have happen. It's not always about who's the best team throughout the whole season. It's who's the best team at the end of the season, who's able to come out on top, as we've seen in this league and plenty of other leagues before. So we'll see where this leads for the Avocados.
Right, and that's usually where the regular season stuff comes in. Just an exhibition to test your skills and improve on the little holes and gaps in your team that you need to basically clear up and fix things as you go down the rest of the season. So this is not the only time we'll be talking about the Avocados today, but things starting to look a little bit up as they utilize guys like Nick Futures, like you mentioned. And also, the offense numbers dropping a little bit. But this is a good team. This has been a team that's been in the league for a little bit. So they know how to approach these as well. Moving on now, we got the LA Wiffles of OC now, taking on the team in Whoosh, who has Anthony Agrusa on their team this season. This was actually a lot closer than I believed a lot of people were imagining. Typically, Whoosh has really run up the score on a lot of teams when it comes to just their history in general. But LA was OC also trying to figure out that second pitcher a little bit as well. But Tommy Hernandez also doing a better job in that department in terms of, and also the bat as well. But this game, low scoring in this first test for the LA Wolves of OCs on the day, and including for Whoosh as well. But LA Wolves of OC get that W in a 2-0 game.
Yeah, the biggest story for this game, I'd say, was the pitching of the LA Wolves of OC. Steven had his welcome back moments. In this game, he would give a 1 hit with 12 strikeouts in his 4 innings. And Tommy Hernandez came in, had 3 strikeouts for himself and 2 in his 2 innings of work as well. Obviously, no runs allowed. I think 3 hits allowed in the game. And then hitting wise, both teams were pitching pretty well. LOC couldn't get the bats going much either. Other than a Steven RBI triple and a Tommy Hernandez solo home run. Those were all the runs that were needed in the game. But it was a very quick game in general. I think it was something like a 35 or 40-minute game. Just very, very quick. Things were moving very quickly. And for 6 innings to be able to finish a game like that in 40 minutes is almost impressive at that point. But just a lot of good pitching in this game from both teams. Some good defense mixed in there as well. But LOC able to come out on top. This part helped improve Stevens' numbers a lot right here, as his ERA dropped with those 12 strikeouts and not a single run allowed. Even though his average is down, and Tommy Hernandez has been slugging the ball and seeing the ball well. So, good first win here for the LOC in that 5-6 matchup.
Yeah, definitely, and in this matchup as well. Not the first time we'll be talking about this as well later on throughout the season, but you talk about the LA OC, like getting into these long games as well. We saw this week 2, where the game was a lot longer than when it should be, but that's just usually what happens when it comes to a lot of pitching and a lot of swinging of the bat and putting the ball in play towards the defense and you get a lot of action, and it just ends up being a shorter game, and that's totally fine in the eyes. It gives a more rest time in between the games, and maybe a little bit more warm up before you head off to your second game. In those terms, if that's how you use that to approach games, if you want to just chill out and do other things, that's not too bad of an approach as well. But again, it was kind of surprising how short that game really went.
Yeah, it just flew by. It was kind of nuts to see. I mean, there were some highlights of some of the pitching there from Steven and Tommy in there as well, so you can kind of see how the game went along. It was just moving. A fun game to be with, and at the end of the day, LO's supposed to do come out with the victory.
Absolutely, that's usually what it means to play in the league. Just getting the W's as usual. Moving on now, we got the Trash Pandas taking on the OC Juicers. Obviously, one of the things is that the OC Juicers is definitely the underdog in this situation because the Trash Pandas are currently holding that 1 seed. So the top seed versus the bottom seed currently. But the outcome nonetheless being 13-2. Trash Pandas continue to dominate on the offensive side of things. I mean, if you look at the run differential, pretty high number up there with the 50 plus, and again, proving why they're going to be the team to beat this season. But the game, nonetheless, Trash Pandas adding another win to their sheet as well, staying undefeated on the season so far.
Yeah, Trash Pandas are on a mission so far this year. It's from what the sounds of it from this game. The big story was after countless attempts of trying to get him out, the Trash Pandas were actually able to have success and get Nicholas Tone out. Nicholas Tone, who prides himself on getting on base and is very good at it, did not have his best game in this one. The Trash Pandas were able to get after him. I mean, Nicholas Tone does still have a 738 on base percentage, which comes from 23 walks and 42 at bats. So that's outrageous. But yeah, I mean, Trash Pandas. I mean, they have Mo right back. They have Michael Haskell hitting the best he's ever hit in this league. They're just continuing, even though he's dropped all the way down to 576. I mean, goodness. I mean, he dropped all the way down to 576. What are we doing here? I mean, just absolutely awful. I'd hate to see it for the guy, but I mean, they're very much on a mission on a mission right now. They still have Brian Workman, who hasn't registered at bat there yet. He hasn't been here yet for the team, but we could be seeing a potential MVP coming from this team. You could talk and potentially a guy like Blake Fitzgerald. I mean, 22 innings pitched, 5 earned runs so far with a 1.36 ERA, while also having, if I'm not mistaken, he's got a 3.23 average with a 5.33 on base percentage. So some big stuff for him. It could lead to his first ever MVP in the league. They've been getting better and better as they've been through the league, and they're a team that's made it to the last 2 World Series, but unfortunately has come up short. And this may be the year that they're able to do it, or I should say the season that they're able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're working like they have a chip on the shoulder, but even more so, playing like they're basically the best team in the league. I mean, the numbers that Michael Haskell have are numbers that I think a lot of people would love to have those numbers at the end of the season, right? The number 11 is the big number there with the home runs, and obviously somebody went back to the cages and started beefing up in there and really seeing the ball a lot better, including Brian Fitzgerald, who's pitching his heart out as well. And I mean, there's a lot of really good talent on this team, and they're starting to show it out, their true colors this season. And they missed the World Series twice. They've been in there, lost to LAFC twice. So I'm sure there's a fire under that flame, and they're trying to get back there and cement themselves as champions of OC Wiffle Ball finally.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the year. I mean, you got the Beach City Bombers mixed in there. Who knows what could happen with the LA Wiffles or OC Wiffles? But right now, it's looking very much like a 2-horse race to that Division 1 title. So if they can maintain that, eventually those teams will have to play each other. And the Trash Pandas haven't played either the LAFC or the Beach City Bombers, who are the 2 and 3 seed in the Orange League. But it'd be very interesting because the next 2 weeks, Trash Pandas will be taking on both those teams. So interesting to see which one of those teams is able to maintain their their top record. Obviously, the LOC do have a loss on their record because of the Beach City Bombers, but we'll see how things go on as we look for these next 2 weeks. It's going to be some very good football, some very good matchups going on here.
Yeah, if you're a fan of watching some really close games and watching big games, these are definitely those games to look out for. And it also kind of tells who's really the top dog team in the league at the very moment. I know we've only gone through about 3 weeks or so, but it's also a good moment to see who comes out of the smoke, to see who's on top of their game and see where they go for the rest of the season. Because that's exactly why we love watching Thursday night football or Friday night baseball when they have those big matches, because they usually try to get the two best teams out there to play each other and show the reason why they're one of the best in the league. So definitely something to watch out for if you're looking for some close wiffle ball this upcoming few weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got a lot of preparation and things to prepare for this week. Got some big games, and obviously when we get to it later, we'll talk about the Beach series a little bit more. That's also going to be a big one to talk about as well. Moving on though, we got the Beach City Bombers and the Avocabros playing their second game of the day, and not faring any better. We talked about how great they looked in that first game. But they completely dropped off against the Beach City Bombers, not getting a single run against this really good team. And 11-0, the final score here. Beach City Bombers also holding on to an undefeated record as we speak.
Yeah, I know we haven't been able to see as much of the Beach City Bombers in the Purple League. In the Orange League, because they've been busy in the Purple League as well. So, with only the 2 time slots, they're just behind the number of games, but they'll be made up in part with the Sand series and with these extended times and things like that. So, it's from what I heard, this looked like the Jordan Dressler show. I believe he pitched 4 innings and had 12 strikeouts, very similar to a guy like Stephen Hayden. It's almost like they know each other or something, or may have played with each other in a past life. But it seemed like Beach City Bombers finally got the offense going the way they want it. Been a little slow coming out of the gate, but it'll put some runs up against the Avocabros and able to get things through. But so far the pitching for the Beach City Bombers has been very good so far. Both Jordan and Tyler have 7 innings on the year, each only giving up 1 run. Both of them have 16 Ks, and both of them have a 0.86 ERA. And then you still have Charlie Phillips in there, who's mixed in with 2 innings and hasn't allowed a run yet either, with 5 strikeouts as well. So, it seems like they're clicking in terms of the defense and thinking of that offense consistently. Then we'll see. Who knows what's going to happen? They had a somewhat close game versus the LOC week 1. We'll see what happens with the Beach City Bombers. I believe it's week 5 in which the Trash Pandas and the Beach City Bombers play each other. So that first matchup is going to be big in terms of the standings. And once Beach City Bombers plays more games and gets the record up, we'll see how things go on. But 30 runs scored, 2 runs against, and 30 in 3 games so far is a very good sign.
Yeah, it's an extremely great sign for a team that's supposed to be very, very talented this season. I almost thought that was a typo too, just looking at the pitching stats. I didn't think they would have the identical whatever pitching stats that they had on there. Like you were talking about the 0.86 ERA on that, so kind of tells you where they're kind of at with each other. I guess on the same brain wavelength, I guess if that's the way you want to put that, but. Again, Beach City Bombers just putting it out there that they're also going to be a tough challenge for all of the other top dog teams. So again, going back to that matchup between the Beach City Bombers and Trash Pandas to come soon, and then also LA Wolves OC, there's going to be some really, really interesting and close games that we're looking forward to later on in the schedule.
And when you're the Beach City Bombers, you go out there and try to get a guy like Jordan Dressler. That's kind of this is kind of the goal. This is kind of the season you want to have. So far, they've gone into every game thinking they can win every game, and so far they have. Almost sounded like something that someone said in the past as why he was left a different team, but I'll leave that. We'll move on to the next game.
Absolutely. And moving on, so we got another LA Wolves of OC matchup here. This time taking on the 7th seed with the Pitches Gone Wild. And again, another close game for the LA Wolves of OC. Can't credit too much of the struggles on the pitching side of things, but Pitches Gone Wild have also got a pretty decent offensive strategy in mind as well. But this came all the way down to the wire, and including a walk-off home run by Tommy Hernandez in the final minutes of this game. And again, Ellis of OC getting away with a very, very close one here.
Yeah, we talked a little bit how Pitch Gone Wild has shown some improvement versus the Abercrombie despite the loss. They came out here. They were ready to play. I mean, right away, their defense was showing. I mean, I was supposed to see they ripped a couple balls and they were a lot of basket catches in the outfield. Some tough line drives taken off the chest in the infield. It was just the other supposed to see no matter how hard the ball hit or where they hit it, just seemed like it was always getting caught. Still had Stephen Hayden pitching this game. He still pitched extremely well. Pitched 3 2/3 and had 8 strikeouts, I believe. So. Takes his total to 7 2/3 on the night with 20 strikeouts, which is could be his best night ever, but I'm not sure about that. But it was a very fun game overall, and it was pitches going well. Even mentioned it going into the 6th inning when they were up 3-2 in the bottom of the 6th. They were kind of like, this was their championship right there, especially looking for that first win. But then 2 pitches later, but then 1 pitch later, Steven hits a triple, and then the next pitch, Tommy hits a 2-run homer to left field to walk it off. So some very good signs there for pitches gone wild, but some interesting stuff for the Ellis of OC. Steven not quite having the offensive season that he has had in the past. He won back-to-back MVPs in the summer and the fall season. That summer season where he had a 6.29 average, is sitting right now at a 4.29 average, which actually leads the team right now. But he does have some support from the rest of the team. Donna Caroni with a 4.12 average, Tommy Hernandez with a 400 average, and Justin Lee with a 3.06 average. And then once Austin Cutter comes back and plays more after his injury, we'll see how he does. But Tommy Hernandez has been a big addition to the team so far. He started locking in some of the pitching, and the bat's been huge for him as well. He could easily be at 8 home runs had it not been for some basket catches in the outfield. So. This team's starting to click and they're starting to gel together, and it makes you almost wonder, if they had Tommy for that week 1 versus Beach City Bombers and Abercrombie, how would those games go? But it's one of those. You'll never know until those teams play each other again. But good signs for both teams. Maybe not as much for Ellis C, but definitely a good sign there for the pitches gone wild. But Ellis C do come out with the win, move to 3-1 and the 3 seed.
Yeah, and obviously those are storylines that we have to look at forward to, and obviously they're going to get some more matchups there between those 2 teams. And the signs are looking a little positive there with Austin Cutter coming back. Could be coming back as soon as this upcoming week for wiffle ball, which is a great sign. Obviously dealing with that injury that he's had for the last couple of weeks, so it'll be another great addition there to have him return to where he belongs, and including in such which, kind of also got to credit Mother Nature out there as well for stopping a lot of those home runs. A lot of cold air, making the air a little bit heavier than it usually is, so the ball doesn't travel too much. So a lot of those balls going out into the outfield and kind of dying before the warning track, and a lot of basket catches, like you said, for the defense for the pitches gone wild. But again, it just matters with the wins, and hopefully, some people make some learnings from this game, and like you said, pitchers gone wild had a chip on their shoulder, telling that this was their championship. So nearly got away with one there, but hats off to Steven and Tommy Hernandez for finishing it off in the very end.
Yeah, we'll see how it continues on throughout the rest of the season for both these teams. This could be the turning point here for the pitchers gone wild, and for the LOC. Now moving up to 3-1 after technically losing their technical first game, their first finished game. We'll see how things break out for them.
Yeah, certainly will, and see where those standings finish off at the offset of the next episode. But moving on, though, we got the Trash Pandas and the OC Wolves of LA playing their first game of the day. Trash Pandas playing the second game of the day. We talked about them earlier, beating OC Juicers and trying to get more wins on their docket. Obviously they're undefeated team, and once again remaining undefeated yet again in this game as well, beating OC Wolves of LA in a pretty tight game, 8-5 the final score, and Trash Pandas still looking like that really good team out there.
Yeah, that they are. OC Wiffles. Joris, I should say, Trash Pandas got off to a hot start in this game. They scored 5 right away in the first inning, which, if you remember from week 1 when they played each other, No, James Lee did not his best inning, and I believe the Trash Pandas scored 7 or 8 runs in the first inning in a 12-1 victory. So once the OC Whiffles got past that first inning, they were able to battle back, put some runs across, and hold the Trash Pandas a little bit. Very close game overall here. But unfortunately, the OC Wolfsville they fall to 3-2 with their only 2 losses being against the Trash Pandas. So they're already done with the Trash Pandas at this point for the season. So they're already done with the number 1 seed so far. And the OC Wolfville's have still looked good throughout the year. You know, they won their 3 other games. Interesting to see how they stack up versus the Beach City Bombers and Ellisville C. We won't see them play the Ellisville C till later on, but we will see them play the Beach City Bombers this coming week. In the next day or today, whenever this podcast goes out, we're not entirely sure, but we talked about the Trash Pandas a lot already. With the OC, we'll kind of focus a little more on the OC of LA here. No, overall, it just seems like they're having a more collective group as a team and doing better as a team. Ethan Raffman actually leading the way in batting average and on base percentage right now at this point. James Lee close behind him, and Ethan Lee doing well as well. And also David Kuros is having his best season so far, both at the plate and on the mound. He's been featured more on the mound. I would expect to see even more of him as the season continues on. So we'll see how things shake out for this team. But this is a team that could either be in that 3-4 spot or potentially that 5 and find their way into a D2 championship. But even if they're at a 3-4 spot, that's not an easy matchup for that 1 or 2 team to play in the first round.
Yeah, it's going to be a really extremely tough matchup. So you kind of get forced to kind of pick and choose there. But I'm sure you want to try to get as many wins as possible as you need. So that's something they're going to have to think about on the back 9 as they get through here in the season. But it's still fairly early for them as well. But it's even like the pieces are starting to fall together for this team as well. Like you said, David Kuros, kind of that big surprise this season. Even on the mound, I know, previously they've had Ethan Lee up there, but they wanted to put David in a more elevated role as a pitcher, and seeming like that's starting to work out a little bit more this season for David, because I know he's been kind of working in the bullpen a little bit, getting some extra reps in his free time, and trying to figure out how to be a better part of this team, and including the hitting too. The right there in second on the team in home runs, and it's starting to show a little bit more. Just how much that hard work is starting to come into play here, and he might become an important piece for this team going down the rest of the schedule for the squad, because they're going to need it to try to get through a lot of these bigger teams. And if they can, they could also be a pretty good team to face off in the playoffs if they're able to make it within those. I mean, obviously, all the teams make it in the playoffs, but if they want more competition, right, they're going to need to figure out a way to slip into the 3rd and 4th seeds of the standings right now. So this is a obviously they lost this game, but at least they put up some pretty good runs against a very good Trash Pandas team.
Yeah, I mean, so far look at the standings. The Trash Pandas have allowed 11 runs on the year, and 5 of them were scored in this game by the OC Whiffles. So that's a good sign for the OC Whiffles.
Yeah, always watching those indicators as well. And the final game of the day, though, the OC Juicers taking on the Whoosh. Obviously, Whoosh got a loss handed to them earlier on the day against LA Wolves OC in a pretty close game. This was actually pretty surprising. OC Juicers, a team that hadn't found a win yet this season, finally get one here against Whoosh in a 6-0 shutout against Whoosh in this game, the final one of the day for Week 3.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about Nicholas Toe not having his best day versus the Trash Pandas. It seemed like he had a much better day here versus Whoosh. He pitched very well. Obviously, neither him or Joel Gonzalez allowed a run, but also him at the plate, he was able to get on base. I believe he also had a few hits. He might have mixed in a home run in there. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I potentially heard from him. So overall, OC Juicers do get their first win on the year. That's good to see. And this team is improving and getting better and better. So they could be a surprise to there. Maybe they can run for that 4th spot in the D1 playoffs, or maybe they could be a big time contender in the D2 World Series. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Nicholas Stone has got that funky like sliding curve type pitch. That if you're not able to time it up and be able to hit it, well, then you're not going to have success off of him. And it seems like a lot of the teams in the league have not been able to figure out how to hit that pitch. But I mean, other than me, but that we're not talking about me. We're talking about Nicholas Tone, and then Joel Gonzalez has been coming along as well, especially on the pitching side. He's been improving and getting better. Right, and the numbers don't look great for him right now, but some of those were earlier in the season. So we'll see how things shake out for this team as we continue on, and we'll see what kind of run they can make.
Yeah, I mean, we also kind of believe that Nick Tone was going to be the leader of this team, kind of that team captain role as well. And obviously, the funniest stat line is the fact that he's literally the only person in the Orange League that has more walks than he does outs, which is 23 and 11, like you said earlier, which is ridiculous. Telling you that he's really seeing the ball a lot or not seeing the ball at all. I'm just kind of hoping that.
Oh, yeah, just seeing the ball go right by him
Exactly.
and by him and by him.
Yeah, not swinging too much, right? That's probably a big factor into that. But again, that's another upside for this team that they definitely are going to need later on in the season as we get more through here. But obviously, we talked about the standings a little bit earlier, and we'll see more once Week 4 comes about, and because we get those really good games later on with the top 4 seeds currently playing against each other in this upcoming week. So a lot of more competition coming around this time around. So got to pay attention to that. But obviously, we have to talk a little bit about that final Purple League game. Actually, the only one on the schedule as we are speaking now. So let's talk about that a bit. Pancake Batters, Beach City Babes playing each other. Like you said, the Beach City Babes have been kind of splitting their time with their Orange League team, so they kind of had to figure out that schedule-wise in terms of, but interesting game here with the Pancake Batters getting the best of the Beach City Babes in an 18-10 victory in the only Purple Series game of the day.
Yeah, we do like seeing a high-scoring Purple League game. Those are fun to see. And it seems like Pancake Batters they want to show. They've been together. They've been here since the beginning of the Purple League started. And it seems like they're trying to prove a point, potentially get their first one, get handed the Beach City Babes their first loss of the year. These teams will continue to play each other more and more. I believe, as listed in the emails earlier, they play each other 5 times total. For the Purple League, they play each team 5 times, so a lot of familiarity with these opponents. Eventually, as we go on, we'll see more of it. We'll see more Purple League action being played at the Sand Series as well, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But as we continue on, we'll see where this leads for all these Purple League teams.
Absolutely, and we'll probably try to get some more eventually. I know, including the Saints series, which we'll probably get to in a few moments here. We're gonna get some more games here, but that definitely does it for the Week 4 or Week 3 stuff that we just talked about, and we'll come back together for Week 4 for now, and then. But looking forward a little bit, let's discuss a little bit more about that Sand series in particular. It's coming back after its long absence from a season ago. And we haven't really had one in a minute, but how it started out, and if you want to give a little backstories, and this started with a formerly known team as the Plastic Pitches. I think it was meant to be a makeup game at Newport Beach, and it just ended up becoming this long theme series that we've had for the last year or so, playing against some of the 2 of the top teams. Obviously, we did it again with the Plastic Pitches. And then, obviously, in the summertime, we had the San Diego series, or San Diego Beach series, you want to put it. We had a lot more teams, and it kind of turned out to be really nice because we also got to go check out the Padres game. But we had a lot more teams out there. And then it made a little bit of an absence later on in the season. Some teams had schedule issues and whatnot, so it kind of disappeared from the world for a little bit, and now it's finally coming back, and looks like we're going to be having that upcoming on Sunday, March the 3rd. Steven, you got any details you'd like to share a little bit about? I know we talked about a little bit throughout as we were talking about Week 3 stuff, but we can touch on a little bit about what that schedule looks like.
Well, I mean, you kind of took a lot of what I was going to say, but yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast before, how the Beach Series was started. originally meant just for as makeup game. It was either we're not gonna play as many games as everyone else, or we're gonna play this game and get it on. It's the thing we started in the fall of 2022. It went for 3 seasons in a row. In the summer of 2023, we had the event in San Diego. And then the fall and winter of 2023, we did not have this. So we're back now. We have 2 Purple League games going on. We have the Beach City Babes and Pancake Batters playing each other 2 more times out there, actually. 10 and 11 o'clock. And then at 12 o'clock, we have the LA Wolfsville C taking on the Beach City Bombers, which is a big matchup for the Orange League. Obviously Jordan Dressler going up against his team in the LA Wolfsville C, as he went to the Beach City Bombers for the season. So, going to be very interesting out there. The Beach City players are going to be out there pretty much for the 3 hours or the 3-4 hours, give or take. We've had the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby out there as well. The conditions are much different out there, so it's when you compare that to you playing on a Tuesday night where the wind in the stadium where it's more controlled versus you being out there in the morning / afternoon on the beach with there's no real cover around the field that's going to stop the wind from blowing as much and affecting the ball. So oftentimes you see some more walks in these games, or you see more balls leave the yard that normally wouldn't leave the yard and things like that. So it's affected some stuff in the past, but we'll see how things go for this Sand Series. I believe the All-Star Game and Home Run Derby will also be back here at Balboa Peninsula, which with that new schedule that came out. If you check your emails from Sunday at 11:53, you'll see that there emails some details regarding some of the schedule breakdowns. You even have the schedule for the rest of the year, the plan and things like that, barring no rain, hopefully. That may be a possibility, maybe get some rain, but we'll see. And then you can see the adjusted dates on the spring 2024 schedule as well. We're at week 4 coming up here, February 27th, March 3rd, Sunday. It's a Sand Series. You have week 5 being on March 5th. And there will be no games on March 12th on that Tuesday. But we do have the All-Star Game and Home Run Derby on Saturday, March 16th. Information for that will be coming out soon. Hopefully have a better participation from all the other teams than we did for last year. So that's something that should be better from us. Week 6, March 19th. Week 7, March 26th. Week 8, April 2nd. Some difference in there. Originally, April 2nd was going to be a playoff date. But now April 2nd is a regular season week, and then the playoffs will start on Monday, April 8th, starting at 6:30, and then going on as needed. And then the World Series will still be taking place on April 9th in the stadium. We'll see whether the April 8th is in the stadium or on one of the side softball fields. That's still to be determined. But that's kind of your schedule breakdown as we go along, and you can see a picture of it on the website as well. And so you can follow along and make sure, and hopefully no rain will affect this one. Otherwise, there'll be another schedule sent out. So that's kind of your breakdown for the Sand Series coming up. That'll be coming up. We won't be able to talk about that again until the next podcast goes out. So that's coming. Just a reminder for that, especially for the Beach City players, to make sure that you show up because you're in all 3 games. And then the rest of the breakdown for the rest of this spring 2024 season.
Yeah, and we hopefully, like you said, there's no more rain, no mas.
Yeah, there might be some for this Monday / Tuesday, and then potentially on the weekend as well. So we got to make sure on some stuff.
Yeah, they won't close the field at Newport typically because it's more of OC Great Parks that close down the field when it just rains even a tad bit. But Newport, it's just a little tight. It's a field right next to the beach. It's a nice little view. You get to see some of the houses, a lot of people walking by. So they won't be closed down as much. We'll probably play out there if it doesn't rain too hard on the day of. But it's more of there's a chance it'll rain the 2nd of March, which is a Saturday. But hopefully it won't be too crazy. I know we've played the Beat Series before, like right a day after it's rained or a week it's been rain, and there's whatever sand on the little grass field or whatever, but that's never been an issue for us. the wind is a huge factor in these games. That is 100% for sure. It can be blowing in one direction or it could be blowing in a different direction. Just kind of also depends where we decide to put the field. We kind of switch the field on different sides of that little patch of grass every year or so. And the wind has always been kind of a factor, kind of carries the ball a little bit more. So be ready. You're going to be running a lot if you think you can go catch a fly ball that's going almost 80 miles per hour with the wind. So good luck with that. But we got that coming up this Sunday and should be a great time for a lot of the people who have not had a chance to do a beach series before.
Yeah. You have teams like the Beach City Bombers and LSOC who have done it before. They LSOC obviously being one of the first teams. I mean, being the first/second team to do it. And Beach City Bombers did it in the summer, but now you have the pancake batter stepping in and seeing what it's like. So we'll see how that experience goes.
Certainly will. Well, that we'll kind of just do it for most of what we had for this episode. Obviously, these episodes are going to be a little bit shorter because we don't have as many teams this season. But let's start a new little segment so we have a little bit of time. We have a question of the day or question of the podcast, whichever way you want to put it. Steven has put a question in here to kind of get the conversation going a little bit. So, question of the day: what team/season had the greatest team in OC Wiffle Ball? Steven knows a little bit more than I do in terms of which teams were kind of some of the best, but obviously we played on some of the best teams as well throughout this past year or so. To name some of the few teams that have been here, we got the old some of the older teams that are not here with us anymore. You got the Wise Guys. We've also got the Diablos were a pretty good team at one point. Obviously the two teams, the Purple Huskies and MS Warriors, formerly known as the Plastic Pitchers, could also be another conversation piece, even though they didn't really win any World Series. We could even talk about the Trash Pandas if you want to. I know they're an up-and-coming team there as well. But I know Steven's been kind of thinking about this one a little bit. But what are your thoughts? And do you have a team in mind of which team had the greatest team in OC Wiffle Ball history?
Yeah, this is one that there's always conversations in other sports about like who is the greatest team of all time. I thought it might be interesting to take a look at this, and also get some of the history behind the league for those people who are newer. The spring 2024 season is the 8th season that OC Wiffle Ball has been played overall, and there have been different varying levels of competition. Some seasons there's only been 6 teams in the league, and some seasons there's been 19 teams in the league, things like that. So there's been a mixture of stuff, mixture of players going in or out per season based on availability or other factors. But there are definitely a few teams that come to mind. We're not talking about like a team overall, we're talking about we're not talking about a team overall, like their full tenure as a team. Like for example, Willie would probably, to be honest, they would probably win that one because they've been here for 8 seasons and won it 3 times. For 7 seasons and won it 3 times, so they nearly had a 50% win rate. But we're talking about one season, one team, and kind of your hypothetical matchup. You see a lot of times with basketball is like, could the 1996 Bulls, who went 72-10, beat the 2017-18 Warriors, who are sometimes considered the greatest semblance of talent on a basketball team of all time, stuff like that. So that's kind of our debate on these things. There are a few different ways to go with this. Early in the history of OC Wiffle Ball, the league was dominated by teams such as the Wise Guys and the Trailer Park Boys. Those two teams combined to win the first 4 World Series in the league. The Wise Guys winning the first, then Trailer Park Boys winning 2 in a row, and then in the spring and summer, and then the Wise Guys winning 2 again, winning the fall one again in 2022. And 2023 rolled around. You had the LSOC winning in the spring, the fall, and the winter of 2023, and then you had the Beach City Bombers winning in the summer of 2023. But there's a lot of different teams to choose from. That first Wise Guys team was obviously very good, but depending, well, you also take into account how many other teams there were on the type of competition and things like that. And even their Wise Guys team from 2022, their World Series was a very good team. But even going into the playoffs, they were the 3 seed. LAFC were the 4 seed when they won in the spring of 2023. Beach City Bombers were 2 seed. The one there are a few that come to my mind as I'm kind of bringing it out, and it's very hard to kind of decide on a winner for this one. And I'm also kind of speaking a lot to give you time to think about it as well, because I know you've had less time to think about this than I have. I put this as a potential topic a while ago, but it's not something we really. It's something it wasn't entirely sure whether we were going to do or not. So. But for me overall, if I had to pick, if I'm going to pick a team, I'm usually going to pick a team that did win the World Series that season. And for me, I'm going to pick an LAFC team, and I'm probably going to take that. I'm probably going to take that the most recent team, the Winter 2023 team. Had what so in Anthony's time of running wiffle ball, whether it be here in OC wiffle ball or at Clemson, no 1 seed had ever won the World Series before, and the Winter 2023 team for the LA Whistles was able to do that as well. They were able to take a lot of the awards. You had Jordan winning the MVP. You had Steven winning Silver Slugger. You had Justin Lee winning All-Star Game MVP, Jordan winning Home Run Derby, things like that. They were able to take a lot of awards. Overall, as a team, they had a 4.04 average, which and the person with the lowest average on the team was a 2.45 with Dominic, but then everyone else was at 3.50 for Justin Lee, 3.89 for Dustin Staggs, even though he was hardly there. You had 4.73 for Jordan Dressler. You had a 4.93 for Steven. In a season where hitting was down, that team that year they were dominating the hitting. And then pitching wise, this team overall through the regular season had a 2.29 ERA. Jordan leading the way with a lot of it, with only allowing 6 runs in 29 innings. And just that overall collection of talent. You have me, who obviously a big time player, has played in a lot of different styles and stuff. And it's had a lot of success, especially for like my first full year of playing fast pitch and SoCal, stuff like that. You have Dustin Staggs, who obviously runs the SoCal League. You have Jordan Dressler and Justin Lee, who both also mix in with a lot of different styles, and especially Justin Lee. This is one of his better seasons, especially with the continuation straight from fall to winter. And then Dominic Caroni coming back and improving from his previous season was helped out the team as well. But overall, I would say, given how dominant this team was, they had a run differential of plus 133 if you include all 15 games. That also includes the playoffs. So they're averaging winning each game. They're averaging winning each game by about 8, just over 8 runs, and that's my overall choice. I think it's actually the fall 2023 LA Whistler team actually has better talent, more talented players, because you have guys like Justin, Jordan, Dustin, and Steven. But then you take away Dominic Caroni and added Dylan Menji, and then you also had Greg Gualtieri, who also himself has 3 World Series titles in OC wiffle ball. Was part of that team this year, mixing in when available. But for me, I'm going to go with the team that was the 1 seed and went through all the way through, despite the competition, despite the number of teams being down a little bit compared to the fall season. I'm going to choose the most recent LA Whistles OC team to be the greatest team in OC football history, in my opinion.
I think that's a very good opinion. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of tangibles there. They could talk about the undefeated streak, and then just being that first team that pretty much break that streak in the number 1 seed, the number of talent that they had, what they're riding upon, the amount of upside that team had as well. So I think it's a great pick there. I might go in a different direction just because just want to give a little nod to some of the best players in the league to name thus far. Obviously, we're a great team, but I don't want to give us too much credit as an organization that's
Come
been
on.
around. um, yeah, I know we always try to do the unbiased type of game here, but there was definitely a team that I kind of watched in the background that I knew a little bit about, but not too much. But I know understand their history in this league, but it will only be relevant because I've only been around for the 2023 winter, fall, summer, spring, and then the 2022 fall season. Was there for a few games in the summertime, as a preview player, but didn't really, watch too much there. But I think one of the big ones was the Wise Guys back in the fall of 2022. When I look back at that team, I mean that the team was made of legends, right? I mean Ben Spotty was,
Absolutely.
yeah, was one of the best players in OC football history that we've seen in a long time. And then True Hendrickson was basically one of the MVPs throughout the last couple seasons prior to that. They were both having a really good season, and then they also got put in a tough situation where they had to play at a completely random field. I know you were out there recording that game. If you want to
Yep,
check,
Lake Forest Sports Park, baby.
yeah, if you want to check that video out, it's actually on this channel. You just gotta go. You gotta dig pretty
Yeah,
deep
live
far
stream
in.
by yourself.
Yeah, Steven is the one that's commentating the game, and it was against a pretty good team in Scared Hitless. If I remember, I think his brother Shaden was on the team at the time, including a couple of other really good players on there as well. But I always imagined that the Wise Guys were one of the best teams in general. But in particular, this 2022 season, I think they just absolutely demolished a lot of teams that were out here. They definitely had a lot of upside when it came to 2023 spring season, and then they fell off against the Diablos in the playoffs. That was a tough stretch for them, but I think that 22 season was kind of the height and the peak of that organization. And then obviously they're not here with us anymore, but we still have some of the remnants still around in the league. And I know you talked about the fall season where we had Greg present for that season. He was also another far cry from that Wise Guys team as well. But in my opinion, I think that Wise Guys team was one of the best that we've seen in this league.
Yeah, and that was a great team. That would probably be battling for second or third I would probably either second or third in my list. That would be right up there. You had Ben Spotty. When you talk about the Wise Guys' success, we're talking about their success in OC wiffle ball. They've played a lot in Texas, and they've had success in Texas, winning a lot of tournaments out there as well. So when we talk this, we're talking about just OC wiffle ball. True Hendrickson on that team, who had just come off that summer 2020. Was the MVP the season before. You had Greg there. You had Larry Estrada there. I believe that was the main four they had. I don't think they really had a fifth. They might have. I think they had one guy from Vegas come out a couple times, but that played in the POW league out there. But other than that, it was mainly those four that were rocking. I did forget about Brandon Williams. I apologize. Brandon Williams in that team as well. It's been a while for me. It's almost been a year since they've not been here. It's kind of nuts to think about. Obviously, I mean, with Ben being the first person in the Hall of Fame for OC football as well, which was done last fall, I believe. But yeah, that was a great team there as well. Even though they were actually, I believe they were the 3 seed going to that playoffs. Actually, funny enough, the two teams in front of them were the Diablos and the Plastic Pitches in their first season, with Dylan Hoffman being the MVP of that season. And right away, Scared Hitless is basically the same as the Trailer Park Boys. They just changed the name a little bit, changed one or two players around here or there. So I consider that kind of the same team. And that Scared Hitless team was the 4 seed. They knocked off the Diablos, and then you had the Wise Guys knocking off the Plastic Pitches that year. So that's definitely a great choice as well. I think both of those teams, if you had to put them up in a matchup against each other, I think you're either getting a really high scoring game or you're getting a really low scoring game, because either the pitching is going to be electric or the hitting is going to be electric. I don't think there's any in between. It just depends on who's the home team for, for each game and things like that. So, we talked about I talked about also an interesting thing with this. We talked about what usually when you consider this the greatest team in OC football history for a season, you're considering the team. You're pretty much only considering teams that did win the title that season. So I also want to ask you, kind of take it a slightly different direction. Which team for you in your mind in a season was the best team to play that did not end up winning the title?
There's a lot of heavy hitters here, right? I mean, we kind of seen it within the last year, and looking back at the kind of history that we had. I know the summer season was when Beach City Bombers won the title, and they had the Purple Huskies crawling up their neck. That was going to be a really great team. Obviously, they made it there because of a walk off by True Hendrickson, who we were talking about earlier. And they made it all the way to the World Series, but they didn't have a whole team present there because a big majority of that team was also missing. But when I look back at our history, the one that stands out to me the most was actually the 1 seed back in 2023 of spring season with the formerly known Plastic Pitches team. I forget if it was blue or pink.
It was blue.
It was blue. Okay. And what I remember was it was Dylan Hoffman, Joey Ponder, Kyle Froome, Shaden Hendrickson, right? And then I think I'm missing one more guy on there, but Greg Munoz.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, Garrett Munoz.
Munoz, yeah. And then they were the number 1 seed, and they crushed us in that first game. It was almost basically a shutout in their first game, and then that was definitely the
3-1. I wouldn't call it crushed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, not a crushed, but
it was 3-1.
That series was so close all the way through, and I didn't understand. That was probably the most stressful series, in my opinion, in recent memory of just the implications of that. We were a team that were playing way behind. We barely made it into the playoffs. We didn't have a whole lot of cohesion. We had Jordan Drexler for the first time in our team history, so nobody expected us, I feel like, to beat a team like that, especially if it's the 1 seed as well. In my opinion, I thought that team was completely loaded in terms of talent wise of just how great that team was, and should they have made the World Series? Absolutely. But that just tells you how that LA OC came together and put on a showing that surpassed a really good team in the formerly known Plastic Pitches blue team with the amount of talent that they had. So I think, in my opinion, when I look back at the other squads that we faced, I feel like this team probably had the most upside and the most talent-wise and the toughest that we had to face that didn't win a championship.
Yeah. I mean, for that team to not make it to the World Series either was kind of nuts. You can think of a lot of Plastic Pitches teams that didn't make it, whether it be pink or that didn't win the World Series in the season, that were still great teams. Whether it be pink or blue, you could think of the Wise Guys. They were in the World Series in the spring of 2022 when they didn't win, which I believe Game 1 took a walk-off homer for them to lose. You can even say, you can even talk about like a young and growing team like the Trash Pandas, who were in the previous 2 World Series, especially the fall 2023 season, in which they knocked off the number 1 seed. What were they called? What were they called? The Purple Purple Huskies. Yeah, they were the Purple Huskies. The name changes always get me. That's why. That's why I keep my team to one name, except for when I branched off and we also had the OC Waffles of LA. That just keep it the same. But anyways, think about it. Those 2 teams that you said were the ones that came up in my mind. I'll give a little more detail about each one of those. So your pick was that spring 2023 Plastic Pitches blue team, which you mentioned all those guys on there, which at that point, some of those guys were not even at their full potential yet. We talked about with Joey Ponder. That was his first season ever in OC wiffle ball. And especially at the start of the summer season, he started getting even better. You look back on it and that team was a loaded team. How did that team not make it to the World Series? But I guess in that series it was a big part of Stephen Hayden I believe he pitched 12 innings in 3 games and did not allow a single run. And then games 2 and 3, both Steven and Jordan combined for they gave up 0 runs in games 2 and 3 to win that series. And that's how they got knocked out. They were the number 1 seed. They were 9-0 at one point, and then they lost their very last game 7-6 to the Wise Guys to finish 9-1 on the regular season. But then you also have that the summer 2023 Purple Huskies team, which is actually going to be my pick. Number 1 overall seed, 14-0 regular season, the first time a team in OC football has ever finished the regular season undefeated, and especially with 14 games. We had a lot of teams that year. The fact that they were able to come out undefeated, including given a team like the Beach City Bombers, who finished second with a 12-2 record. The only 2 times the Beach City Bombers lost were to the Purple Huskies, which they had Drake Hoffman, you had True Hendrickson, you had Shaden Hendrickson, and you had Nigel Ward, Nick Escalera, as well. They added I'm blanking on his last name, but Tyler at the end. Because they had some absences going into the playoffs, but they had a great 3-game series versus the MS Warriors, who were the 4th seed, and ended up being a walk-off homer thanks to True Hendrickson taking the ball to right field off of Dylan Hoffman to make it to the World Series. And then versus the Beach City Bombers, they had a great 3-game series. Beach City Bombers were able to take the victory, causing which ended up putting the Purple Huskies in this discussion, but. For me, I mean, just given the talent on that team and how they got so close and the path that they took going undefeated in the regular season, that's gonna be my pick for the best team in my opinion that has not won a championship. So, but both of those are very good options for this. Plus. I saw you sneaking in there. The spring 2023, 2022, spring 2023 series. I'm getting mixed up. That spring 2023 season, they didn't make they didn't win the World Series because of us. So I see what you're doing there.
Yeah,
you just boosted us.
Yeah, you talk about those implications. You know what I'm saying? Like you I don't think the situation, right? We had to go through a team in the divisional round, right? A windy day, and then we had to, figure out how to get through a good team that was at the number 1 seed. And then we were just hoping that the World Series would just be a team that we could manage. But then again, we played against the Diablos, who a team we had history with in the regular season that year.
History of losing.
Yeah. Oh, damn. And I mean, they did lose, but.
Well, we lost before that. That's what I mean by history of losing, because they had beaten us the previous 2 times that we had played them.
Yeah, I mean, like the challenge. I think the challenge against the Purple Huskies was probably the toughest part. Plastic pitches was like the toughest challenge to get through to get to the World Series, like throughout the entire playoff run, because of the implications that were there. And also we were down a game like after the first game in that three series set, so we were like, okay, now we got to figure out how to get through all these guys and try to keep things close. And then it worked out, obviously. So I think that was a really tough team to play against. So yeah, I'm kind of knocking on the door here saying that LA OC had a pretty good season against a really good team. So I like that pick.
We mentioned earlier with the Avocarbos, sometimes it's not about playing your best ball throughout the beginning or throughout the whole season. It's about playing your best ball at the end. So we'll see. Both those teams were extremely good. So we'll see how things continue on as we go through the rest of this season. But it was good to take a little look back at memory lane. I can remember a lot of wiffle stuff and bring up a lot of wiffle stuff, whether it be OC wiffle related or other stuff. So just give some of the new if there are any new people listening some insight on some of the previous history with the league and see where some of these guys were at, because the league keeps changing every season with certain guys coming in, certain guys leaving. So it's always interesting to see with as each season passes by.
Yeah, certainly, and the story doesn't end here. We're going to have a lot more stories to cover for everybody on this podcast, whether that would be OC Whiff or any of the other future endeavors that we partake in, especially in the summer. I know we got a lot of big plans for the summer, but we'll get closer to that when that time approaches. So, but yeah, nice little discussion there. And I think if you have any other opinions, people who are watching, put it down in the comments, and maybe we'll check those out a little bit later and see what your thoughts are on the greatest team to ever play in OC football history, or the team that was the greatest that didn't win a championship. It would be interesting just to see what everyone's thoughts are. But obviously, in the comment section below, leave that down there. We'll catch up on that a little bit later. But
or just tell us in person and just tell us how wrong you think we are.
Yeah.
Which we're not.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In our humble opinions,
you might get some text messages from the Hoffman brothers. Who knows, right?
I get plenty of them from any of them, anyways.
Yeah. If you didn't know, Steven is at Westcliff University, and the head coach of the Westcliff team is obviously Dylan Hoffman, and the assistant coach is Drake Hoffman. So you get to see them every single day.
And Cal Fromm.
And Cal Fromm too. But yeah, looks like we're getting to the end of episode 40 here. We got more to come in week 4 in the Beach Series this upcoming weekend. So hopefully the rain isn't too much of a problem this upcoming week, and hopefully everyone has a great time as we start catching things up and make up for lost time because of the weather. But if you got nothing else, Steven, I think we're good to go.
I think we're about good for this week. Thanks for watching, and this season's just getting underway and the year's just getting underway for OC football, and things are going to start picking up around the country as well for wiffle ball. So a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to, including some representation from us, whether locally or in other states and things like that. So we'll see how things go as we continue on.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Justin Lee and Stephen Hayden once again for the That's Scuffed Up podcast. This has been episode 40, and we shall see you guys very, very soon.